Man, I don't... This will be an interesting episode. I don't know what we're going to talk about at the end part. I haven't even figured that out. We'll figure it out as we go.
Whee!
Big Boys of Boyle Street. Red leather, yellow leather.
Oh, you're just saying things now. Okay, awesome.
Alrighty. I'm serious now.
This is for real.
For the real ones. I fucked up again. Anywho. Woo! Gather. Hey there, Film Buds. Welcome back to the Film Buds podcast. I'm your host, Paul.
And I'm Lauren.
And welcome to our second international cinema episode. And last week it was India, and today we're moving to a similar, a nearby geographic region. We're moving to Egypt. And we're going about a decade and some change later. In our last episode, when we did India, we did Mother India, which was 57. This week, for Egypt, we're bringing you a film from one of Egypt's most prolific directors, Youssef Chahine. We're bringing his film, The Land, from 1969. So we've moved 12 years later. Dear, how are you doing? How are you enjoying International Cinema Month so far?
I find that we've accidentally got ourselves in a theme within a theme. Because both of these movies were just bummers.
Yeah, maybe. I guess I didn't realize when I was planning it. I didn't realize what exactly either, I read both of the plots, but I didn't think much of, I guess, this one in comparison to the other one. It was just a land dispute kind of thing. I just kind of read it that way, Oops.
But both of these are also very, very agricultural.
Yeah.
No, yeah, very theme within a theme within a theme within a theme.
Yeah. Our next one is not at all.
No.
But what's interesting, I guess, here's what is interesting. So, I picked the countries based on our listenership. Mm-hmm. But I picked the films just kind of off of looking around at what are considered icons of these cinematic traditions.
I like it.
And I picked next week's episode, Hot Fuzz, based on the fact that we got Clark to come back. Mm-hmm. So, because I was originally planning on a film called Gosford Park.
Gosford Park, that does sound very British.
Mm-hmm. It was written by Julian Fellows, who does upstairs, downstairs drama, most famously Downton Abbey. So that was originally what I was planning on doing.
What on earth is an upstairs, downstairs drama?
It's the upstairs, the rich people, the downstairs, the help.
Oh! Oh, wow. Okay. Noted.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I was going to do that. But anyway, I think it's funny that, well, not funny, I guess, in the sense of it's haha funny, but I think that it is interesting that we went and we did both of these films that are about someone getting out from under the thumb of British, imperial rule, and figuring out who they are and their formation and things like that. And then we then have a story that's about essentially British authoritarian rule with Hot Fuzz.
Perfect.
And it's, of course, England that's following both of these, and then we'll move on next to Japan after England.
Yeah, it's gonna be like a what is that thing called? Whiplash? We're gonna have...
Yeah, kind of. Because also Hot Fuzz is the youngest of all of these films. I also accidentally, for all of the international films picked older films intentionally to go back to like the roots of these cinematic traditions, because I felt like I wasn't familiar with them, and if I'm not, then others
And
aren't.
then there's Hot Fuzz.
Yeah. So, oops, kind of out of theme, but it was good to have Clark on. We already recorded with him actually, but
No,
the
yeah.
episode will drop next week.
Very delightful, honestly. Wealth of information.
Indeed. But no, I also do have a little bit of news. I'm not sure when it'll happen, but in some capacity we will be having Henry on sometime next month. TBD. Henry, if you hear that, hello.
Hi.
But yeah, I think that's pretty much all that I have kind of leading up for this. Should I do, like, I guess some of the history lesson before or after we introduce the movie?
I guess might as well set the mood.
Okay. So, Egypt, for a very quick sort of modern context that I guess most people don't, recognize or understand, Egypt, we think of it all the way going back to, like, pharaohs, I feel like, is, like, all that most Western audiences probably know. Is, like, pharaohs, and then...
That's it?
No, it's... And we don't even really get into the context of, like, it and its relationship to, like, the early days of the Roman Empire and that kind of thing, and so... it's this weird little pocket that's very incomplete. So for a really quick encapsulation of a lot of very complicated politics, essentially at one point, part of Egypt, or Egypt at large, was a sort of tributary state to the Ottoman Empire, which is sort of, starting in modern Turkey and that region and moving outward to lots of places. And it included Egypt. And during this time, Egypt and Britain and France had this sort of economic relationship where, there was a certain amount of dependency financially on Britain and France, and it led to a lot of turbulence, and this nation wanted to reclaim Sudan, which had broken off, and they also were dealing with a revolt internally, and so Britain decided that it was a good time to come down and use this as an excuse to set up this sort of military protectorate, which lasted for, and this is in the late 1800s. So this lasts until around 1911, I think it is, or so. And they finally sort of dissolve this protectorate, but then World War I breaks out. So the Ottoman Empire sides with the Central Forces, and Britain has this kind of protectorate still going thing with, and these relationships with Egypt. So they overthrow the guy who is considered like the head of this country, and they set up a sultan, if I'm not mistaken, of Egypt, and they kind of rework it into this new alternate thing. And it stays under sort of British rule through various very complicated to explain forms until essentially the 50s. I think it's like 1953 is essentially when it's 1956 when Egypt is essentially like free completely of British occupation. And actually, once they got the British out, they tried to declare a little bit of a war to come back in and reclaim control of certain things. But there wasn't enough international support for it, and so it completely died in its tracks. But that's a very, very, very quick summation of kind of modern Egyptian history for the context of what's leading up to our story. On top of that, the Egyptian film industry really sort of took off. There were films. The first silent film was made or shown in Egypt in like the late 1800s. Some film historians consider the first Egyptian film to be made in 1917 with a documentary. But the main sort of studio, the first big studio, was established in the 30s by an industrialist. And from there were some other groups that sort of got set up. Most of the productions came out of Cairo and then eventually Alexandria. And in like 1940, there was a group that started to subtitle films to give them more of an international audience. And things were going pretty well for them, and by the 50s, the Egyptian film industry was sort of the third largest of countries outside of the U.S. in film production. And so that's a very... And the 60s also did very well for them. And that 30 studio system is also what led to Omar Sharif becoming a famous actor who eventually went on to star in Western productions. And so that's a very quick sort of encapsulation of a lot of very complicated history, as best as I could do it.
I think you did great.
Thank you. So I guess without any further ado, we'll jump into Youssef Chahine's The Land. The premise is a small peasant village's struggles against the careless inroads of the large local landowner. The Land shows why political oppression does not necessarily lead to a sense of solidarity among the disinherited.
Wow.
Available to watch on Netflix. So it also stars Mahmoud Al-Maleji, Nagwa Ibrahim, Ezat El-Alali, and Hamdi Ahmed. And I kind of already let off, I guess, quite a bit. The listeners have heard me ramble at them for a pretty protracted period of time. Do you want to start, or do you want me to start?
I mean, I really don't know. This movie was so dense.
Yeah, that's fair.
This movie was a densely packed 2 hours and I don't even know how many minutes.
2:10.
2:10. Okay, lovely. 2 hours and 10 minutes. I don't know how to feel about this movie. Because, like, we start out, and we're, like, following this kid for a while until he leads us to, I'm going to call her the sheriff's daughter.
Oh, Wasif.
Yes, Wasif. And then we follow her for a while, and then we do all these, like, weird, like, look at this person's life.
Wasifa. Excuse me.
Wasifa. And then we kind of throw all that away in like the third act of the movie when we start really dealing with the conflict of this land
that kid doesn't
stuff.
even make the third act. Like
that kid
drops
is
off
gone.
like this
movie's very, very confusing.
It opens
for me.
with this. It opens with this shot of the hands of this farmer as he tends to his cotton. And then we follow this political figure who is coming out to visit him, and as he's rich and he has this, son, he's from the city, and he's coming out to the rural community.
Yes.
Which is, or it's peasant farmers. The whole group, the whole community is a peasant farming community. And he comes out, and along the way, he essentially kind of sets up exactly what all of this movie is about through the eyes of, like, this little kid. So it's almost this kind of, like, cold open thing where it's like, here's all of the themes that you're going to kind of deal with on a certain level leading up to, you know, the movie. But the problem, to your point, is in this weird pacing choice that, you know, I can't really explain or defend in any particular way. They have the kid continue on, and they set him up with this past relationship with this woman, who you're not really sure how old she's supposed to be exactly in the movie. So it does start out, like, with this weird kind of rocky start, and honestly, like, the first... I'm going to be completely honest, I think the first 45 for me were a little bit rough. And it was after that I think that I liked the movie more, for the most part.
Is that when we finally got into, like, the land dispute as, like, the serious focus bit?
Yeah, I would say so. Once we kind of got past some of the early character and setup stuff.
Okay. I felt like this movie was really fast and really slow all at the same time. You know, like, they were speaking all at once so quickly. I had to constantly read subtitles like a mad woman. And then yet, like, the plot would just, like, stagnate.
No, that's fair.
And in a way, it was a little maddening. What did I equate this movie to? It's like Les Mis.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like watching a whole bunch of, like, vignettes of, like, people doing people stuff for a little bit, and then you start getting into, like, war, basically. And that's kind of like what this is. You know, they have their own war of sorts. And I guess, like, the only part that I thought was, like, really visually interesting was this one point where person came to Rich Man, and
it was Mahmoud Bey that was the guy being visited, and he was being visited by, being visited by Effendi's uncle, who I think's name was Masuda.
Okay. So person.
Bey.
Uh-huh.
The rich guy, Mahmoud Bey, is being visited by Effendi's uncle.
Yes. Thank you. And they do this, like, really interesting visual take on this kind of, like, repetitiveness of, like, this feeling that he's been here several times, because they'll start out with Rich Man doing rich things. They'll, like, pick he'll be, oh gosh, now they're all escaping me. Can you help me out?
Yeah. So he essentially comes in and starts talking about all of these, like, issues that he has, and Mahmoud Bey, like, starts to continue on explaining all of the reasons why all of this guy's fears are completely illogical, and all of his complaints are, you know, they don't make any sense. And as he's doing it, he's, like, overlooking the construction on his mansion, and then he's sitting for his portrait, and then he's hopping down off of his, like, thoroughbred horse, and he's Mahmoud Bey is an Egyptian man, but out of everyone that's in this area, he's the only one that lives in a mansion, A, and B, he very much dresses in, like, a Western European way. But to your point, yeah, it's this very modern moment where we're constantly cutting in the conversation as though time isn't passing between their conversation, but he keeps on switching to these more and more ridiculous, kind of rich people things, that he's having this discussion where he's downplaying all of the needs of the poor.
It's a very like the original Instagram thing where like people would like, switch into different outfits on command kind of thing, but it was just like with every cut back to him, he would be in a different circumstance of wealth and and richness, which I thought it was like really cool, and like for a second I thought I was going crazy. I was like, what's going on here? Because there's no warning, honestly, and none of the rest of the movie is like this at all.
No, it's legitimately a very modern moment.
And I kind of wish that I guess I had more of those instances where it felt I guess standing out of some kind. I had a hard time in this movie keeping people in check, keeping storylines in check, and then the moment the movie told me to throw all of that away and just focus on the land dispute, I eventually just kind of gave up, I don't ah. I think I preferred at this point. I think I preferred all of the like um off mood singing in Mother India more than this movie, because at least they were fun.
Well, I'm not sure it's off mood, but
No, I guess as in a Western mindset, the tempos and the lyrics felt very upbeat and happy while people were literally like dying.
no,
And
yeah.
so that's what I mean. I guess when I mean like off mood, that's the best word that I could think of. Um, well, anywho. I feel like at this point I liked that because at least it like kept me going through the story, where like this story was just as depressing without any of the like happy times once it started to get sad. It's kind of, I guess, like Romeo and Juliet in that sense. Like the first act is a comedy and the second act is not.
Yeah. Um I I think that it's an interesting movie. It's much like Mother India. The this whole thing is about what it sort of takes to shake off the things that are oppressing you on a certain level, right? Um, and in the sense of like Mother India, what you do is you sort of persevere. Here, what you do is what the movie ultimately tells you is the right thing to do is unity in the face of the thing that is oppressing you. But the problem is people, because of different reasons, because of self-interest, because of religious reasons, because of their education, because of this, that, and the other, because of moral weakness, don't become unified until it's ultimately too late. And so what ends up happening, spoiler alert, is that the old man whose farm it is that you see getting tended at the beginning is then drug away to his death, and he's seen, holding on to his crop that he was planting at the beginning of the movie as he's drug away. And I think Les Mis is probably a really good equivocation to this story. It is this very dense brick of a movie that has a lot of characters and a lot going on and a lot of dynamics and a lot of history and subtext that's very, very deep and big to jump into. And honestly, to your point, though, to be completely fair also, it does have some pacing and editorial issues, even I think by an older movie standard, in terms of yeah, the first like act is a little bit unsteady on whose perspective we're settling on, because we don't really come back to our main woman's perspective until the third act again. And when we do first see her in that early act, she, a little bit of a content warning for, like weird interaction with a child. She is like appearing to be this, I'll say 18 or older year old woman who like maybe makes out with sort of almost forcibly at the start.
It
Like
is
with a
not.
kid,
It
it's a
is not
little
made
weird.
clear. It is not made
And
clear.
you just watch it and you feel a little odd when you see it. Um and so I'll definitely be frank, like the first act is probably like the roughest part of the movie, and I think that it does better from there once we do kind of get into it. But it is I think Les Mis is honestly like the perfect equivocation for like a Western experience, that title translates Les Miserables, it translates to the miserables. And this story is essentially about similarly, right? Revolution in the face of the rich having so much and the poor having so little, and in the hurdles that people face, because at the end of Les Mis, they try to stage a revolution and people are like, I'm not sure I'm really interested. And they all die, but then after their death is kind of one of the things that leads to reform and revolution later. And much like this, it has that same kind of bleakness, that same kind of perpetuated, and they talk about it being this cycle of trying to throw off their oppressor, and how it takes sacrifice, and how, yeah, they've been to jail before, And I think that it's a heavy and very dense 2 hour 10-minute movie. That's the other thing, like it in some ways did feel as long as Mother India, and Mother India has 40 some odd minutes on The Land. I will say this for The Land, everything was in subtitles, including songs. And I will
Yes.
give it that.
Yes, the random like two songs or something that this movie had in it.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, there was so much that happened in this movie that I literally forgot about that chick getting murdered.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. Like, this movie is drippingly political as well. Like, it does not even remotely hide how it feels about political ideals. It has the main religious figure of the town be a puppet of industry and ostensibly the British Empire, right? The book is set in the 30s. The book was released in the 50s. It was set in the 30s. The movie came out in 69. And
Bingo.
and so it's set in the thick of imperial rule, and it's very obvious that like the higher up you get in power, the more Western it gets, right? Mahmoud Bey is very Western looking. He lives in this very Western mansion. He wants to build a road. He's literally like an old West industrial villain who wants to build a railroad. Like, it's the same kind of cultural concept on a certain level. And then you have, this group of local police come in for a little while, but the local police ultimately feel for the plight of these people and they leave. But then when the sheriff and his city police come in, they are very Western looking. If I'm not mistaken, the sheriff comes in on a horse instead of a camel, which the local police came in on camels. And they very pointedly throw all of the politics right up front and center, just like Mother India does with a lot of its themes and ideas. And I did find that all very interesting, but you are right, it's a dense and sometimes long, arduous sort of journey, kind of like Les Mis can sometimes be. Certain adaptations of Les Mis are not as good as others.
Most adaptations of Les Mis are not as good as others.
Um, but no, I think that that's kind of. I definitely think that it's an imperfect movie. I think that I have enjoyed what I have learned and that kind of thing more than the movie experience itself. I think that honestly, like if modern Egypt wanted to try and like remake this thing, I'd be curious as hell.
Yeah, honestly, no, I'd agree with that.
And I'm not into remake culture. You guys know that if you've listened to this show.
uh no, crap.
Sorry.
No, I really wanted to like this movie more, I think. I liked learning all of the history. I like what this movie has to say. I guess I don't really like the package as much. I felt like I could have really gotten rid of a lot of stuff and kind of like focused in on the main themes of this movie. I felt like there was a lot of distracting plot points that never got really concluded or you know, lasted more than 5 minutes in some cases. And it had a lot of filler in it where I didn't need it. And I think that yeah, with more, I think that I could have edited this movie down.
No, I get that. I will say this. Youssef Chahine, the director, is internationally known, and he has many films that are internationally known. And if you go on IMDb, what I was going to say is particularly interesting is even though both this and Mother India, for me, kind of on a certain level, almost have this kind of thing of like they feel more revered by a certain generation, but both have seemed a little bit more sort of left by the wayside on some level. Um, and so this is not one of his most known films. Like IMDb will do like the most known film for a director, and this is not in his like four most notable works.
That's so weird because you were reading your handy dandy textbook earlier, and this was like the movie that
Yeah,
was
this was one of the several films. He had like I think 8 or 9 listed for this director.
weird. Yeah, but it's not IMDb worthy.
I guess again, I think that because I think that those metrics are kind of judged off of user interaction.
Oh, okay.
And so I think that it's interesting that, potentially for a more modern generation that's IMDb using, this is not one of his more.
Well, I mean, honestly, I can think of a few movies that we were forced to watch growing up that hopefully will die off at the wayside soon.
Gone with the Wind?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, did someone say Gone with the Wind?
Oh no, it was The Wind.
Oh. Gone with the Wind.
I mean, honestly, I was thinking like The Wizard of Oz. I could be gone with it tomorrow and I'd be fine.
Interesting. I liked this movie. I think that I think that I'll revisit Mother India before I watch this again.
Yeah,
But I think that I
that's fair.
probably will watch this again in my time.
I'm curious to watch others of his
Yeah, I could get into it.
of
Watching
his
other Youssef Chahine films.
yeah, because like I wanna know what the other ones are now, I wanna know what the users are watching.
Yeah. No, I think that that's all fair. So out of 5, what would you give this film?
Oh God. I'm gonna give this movie a 2. I'm gonna give it a 2.
Oh wow, okay. I'll go 3, and I'll go 3. I'll go 3.5.
Okay. Cool.
I liked it.
I really didn't.
That's fair. Moving on. Our recently watched list, honestly, The only thing that isn't something that we're reviewing that we've watched recently was Free Guy, and it was awful.
Oh wow, yeah.
Um, it's just not really my thing. It's a poor man's Lego movie. It's a poor man's Deadpool narration. It's a pretty insincere Ryan Reynolds performance. I really wouldn't recommend it.
It's a poor man's Ready Player One. And that, I feel like that's saying enough right there.
It's a little bit Westworld, it's a little bit Lego Movie, it's a little bit Ready Player One.
And it's doing none of those
successfully. It's a little bit country, and it's a little bit rock and roll.
Nice.
Sorry.
No, I agree with that. I think that Ryan Reynolds is doing what he usually does, which is this weird, like, I don't know how to be a nice
wink
guy.
and a nudge, kind of thing.
Yeah, so it's like a weird, like, the audience knows that he usually plays bad guys that are, like, usually so good on the inside, but this is off of that, and he doesn't really know how to do that, honestly, so he just does this.
The time where he seems the most sincere is the moment where he's disillusioned and throwing, honestly, like, a little bit of a fit and being like, fuck you, and fuck this whole thing, and...
No, I think that he's giving me like a really shoddy Jim Carrey impersonation.
Oh yeah, it's a little bit Truman Show as well.
Yeah, and it's missing all of the sincerity. It's missing all of that like true heart that gosh, I didn't really want to go down this rabbit hole, but that's okay cuz I will. I think that he's missing all of that true honesty that like he needs to be a likable, nice person. Like, he needs to be nice at his core, kind of like Kenneth from 30 Rock. Just like a truly, genuinely nice person. And I just do not think that Ryan Reynolds has that left. I don't know what happened. I think all of the sarcasm drew it right on out of him. But he can't do it. And I hated that movie.
Yeah. So yeah, beyond that, we've been continuing in the Harry Potter franchise. We watched Goblet of Fire. I think Mike Newell, the director, and that movie get a bad rap. I think that Mike Newell did the best with the script he had, and if you want to go and blame Goblet of Fire on anyone, I recommend that you go and watch the sit-down discussion of Steve Kloves, longtime screenwriter of the franchise, and J.K. Rowling that comes with the Ultimate Edition of the films, where he openly says that he told the studio that he could do Goblet of Fire in one movie. And so I think that Mike Newell in that movie got a really bad rap, because I think Mike Newell took a script that gutted a book and did the best that he could. And I think that it's way better than people give it credit for. It's hardly the worst of the franchise.
Oh, no. We all know which one that one is.
6. Where everything is brown. Poo-poo brown.
Oh my gosh, I love you. You're funny. Gosh, no, yeah. I mean, speaking of people who are actually, like, good at acting, Cedric Diggory's dad. At the end,
he sells that scene.
Oh, so good. That is a father in hurt.
Me and Nick used to joke that, a bleak joke, I suppose. Me and Nick used to joke that they actually, like, murdered, like, his family pet or something, like, right off screen in front of him. Like, one of his actual family members was at gunpoint, like, right off screen, and he was like, come on, do it!
It just sounds like a Meissner exercise, honestly, where you're like, you gotta go and imagine something horrible is going on, and if you do not do this task, something horrible is gonna happen to your mom.
Yeah.
All of these imaginary circumstances to get you there as an actor.
To get you motivated.
Yeah, that's right. No. That's horrible.
Yeah. So, well, we were a little bleak, I guess, in college.
Yeah, that's fine.
But that's about it that we've been watching lately. I've been playing a lot of Jurassic World Evolution 2, which is the campaign is just a 4-hour tutorial mode, and then you start playing Chaos Theory, and you get the real game, and the real game hit hard. And you're way busier than in the last one for anyone who has played it. By the way, to explain, the Jurassic World Evolution games are a park sim or management sim a la Zoo Tycoon or Roller Coaster Tycoon, but with Jurassic Park. And so I've been playing a fair bit of that. It's good. I like it. It's a tough nut to crack, but I've been enjoying it. It has different energies and ebbs and flows, but on a certain level, it also does play the same as the first one. But I'm liking it. It's a fun experience. It's getting better the further I go with it. It is not for like backseat gaming and watching. Like, it is all about the doing of tasks, not the watching of tasks be done.
No, yeah, I'm so sorry. This game is so boring to sit and watch.
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I mean, it's not your fault. Like, I think that you're doing a really good job managing, and I think, you have like such an eye for detail, and you have a lot of fun, making the park look a certain way. And I think that that's great. I think that watching you pick through paint colors is boring as it sounds.
Yeah, that's fair. Beyond that, there's been some Disney news. The new Kenobi show is going to have another Darth Vader fight, which is just some more fan service crap, which I'm not interested in. So now I know just to avoid the show completely. I'm pretty pumped. They're doing a whole bunch of like releases on the 12th, including a new season of The World According to Jeff Goldblum.
Excitement.
Which I'm very, 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 very pumped for. I love Jeff Goldblum.
Ew.
Anywho, so no, I'm looking forward to some of the stuff that they're releasing, but there hasn't really been anything announced that has also like truly gotten me like pumped. Pretty tame Disney Plus Day, or Disney Day, or whatever the hell this time is called for them. Corporate schlock.
Zing.
Beyond that, I really don't, I guess, have terribly much for the viewers today. If you haven't already, of course, check out last week's episode. Dear, do you have anything that you would like to leave our listeners with?
I don't know. Go watch a movie. Any kind of movie. Watch something that you've never seen before. Watch something that is outside of your bubble. Watch something familiar. Just go watch something. I think that movies are interesting little windows into societies, into mindsets, into other worlds, and they should be celebrated. So go watch something.
No, that's fair. I've really enjoyed this. As I said in the last episode, I've really enjoyed this dive into cinematic traditions and other cultures, and other histories. It does, I think, for me, really solidify and show the universality of certain human experiences, and the ripple effect of history, and how even when things were less connected than they are now, there are still echoes of similar things happening across the world at the same time. And I really enjoy that kind of I don't know, almost that sort of humble thought of how alike we all are in our own ways, and the struggles that we all face.
Yeah, if we weren't so pig-headed, we might actually get along.
I was about to say, but maybe that speaks more to the totalitarian grip of a heteronormative, patriarchal, capitalist society, but who knows?
Whew, wow, man, leaving them with a deep, dark thought.
You're welcome.
So sorry.
Go and watch something, kids.
Watch something
and
happy.
Let's paint a happy little tree.
Yeah, watch that,
Yeah.
Bob Ross is great.
But I think that that's pretty much all that we have. Go back and watch last week. go and get ready for next week, which is Clark Collis. If you are in our UK viewership, I think out now or coming out soon is his book You've Got Red on You, and you can go and pick that up and maybe give it a peruse before the episode drops, or shortly thereafter. So definitely tune in for that. And then afterwards, we're going to have our Japan episode, and we're going to have Madeline on, and we're going to talk actually about 2 films in that episode, partially because she bought us a movie. And, and so, like, we definitely have to, I think, at this point. So, yeah, I think that it's going to be a good time. Be sure to keep watching. Be sure to keep listening. Or watching. Ha ha ha. Be sure to keep listening. And follow us on Twitter. Follow us on Instagram. Tell people about us, whenever people ask for a podcast suggestion. Give us a review. And y'all have a good weekend. And actually, I found something positive to leave you with. Find something to be thankful for. We are coming up on Thanksgiving, so why not go ahead and start thinking of the things that you're thankful for?
Yeah, I think that's lovely.
Thank you.
And if you have any listener questions, make sure to send those, because, you guys have been really slacking on your homework.
But I think that's all that we have time for today.
Yeah.
We'll let you guys go. Have a good weekend, a good week, whatever time period it is that you're listening to. Have a good life, I guess.
Yes.
We'll talk to you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.